Well, we have 3 different stone countertops going in today. We thought we'd give you an idea of what's happening here as well as how everything got measured up. Craig Guggenberger, who's been out here a couple times, is working on it, as well as Scott Stummis and Neil Thomas is also helping out. Well, Craig was here a couple days ago measuring everything up, so talk to us a little bit about this digital digital
templating.
There you go. Yeah. How does that thing work?
It takes a series of digital photographs in a form of triangulation. You set up your chute with dot tape. You set down your marker panels in kind of a staggered pattern, so you build strength to the triangulation, and then you take a series of digital photographs. You start with your lowest marker panel, take a series of all the panels, and then you finish with your highest number marker panel, and that's what the computer uses to build the complete measurement system.
So once you get the CAD program all figured out, what do you do back at the ranch then?
Well, once the CAD program is done, we end up with a cut sheet similar to what these look like. A scenario like this where you have radius tops, it'll go onto our water jet, get cut, then from there to the CNC to get shaped and polished.
Okay. So talk to us a little bit about the installation then. What's the first things you guys do when you get here?
Well, the first thing that installers typically do, they start carrying the pieces in, putting them in place as they go, so they don't have to handle them too much. A big stone is quite a challenge. Not only can some of it be fragile, it's also heavy, so you have to make sure you have clear access to where you're going with it and adequate manpower to handle them. Quite often we end up doing a little cutting or polishing or hand fabrication on site just to make the final fit and finish up to our standards.
When you come onto a job like this, what is kind of the #1 problem you tend to run into?
Well, if things are out of square, cabinets not being level, and you have to have it all on the same plane so that way your seams match up. If you start with something that's way out of level, it makes the install a lot more difficult. So it's nice to see nice straight and level cabinets like you have here.
Now, one thing you guys did, they were asking me, do I mind if you use a Euro seam? How does that whole thing work, and why did you use that?
Well, there's a lot of different reasons to use a Euro seam. One is grain pattern. Sometimes it helps you with alignment of the graining of the stone. The other is if you need to hit a certain seam location, you can run your seam perpendicular to your finished edge that way while still coming off the inside corner like we did here. Because when you pull the 2 pieces of stone together, they get filled with an epoxy. The guys use a seam puller to pull it tight, and it turns out really, really well.
So once that adhesive sets up between the 2 pieces of granite, how do you finish the whole thing off then?
Well, we give the epoxy time to dry. It gets good and hard, and then they will scrape it down and buff it up so it shines just like the rest of the material does. After they put the seam together, then they go around and put a silicone adhesive around the edges of everything just to anchor the tops down to prevent anything from shifting or moving.
Now, you might recall that Tammy Petrick helped source all the natural stone for the house here, and that includes the granite we're putting in today. Officially, what we're using on the bar is called Golden Crema. That's Verona Gray going over the vanity in the lower level bath. And we're covering the desk on the 2nd floor landing with one known as Brown Antique. We also use the same type of granite in the main floor office, and Tammy gave us an interesting background on that during a recent visit.
Actually, this is a stone from Africa, shipped into Italy, and we put on that beautiful finish so that you can see all the facets of the stone.
So they will ship over the big block, and then they will actually cut it into the pieces and do the polishing.
Yes, yes. In Italy, basically, we have good machinery, good artisans, and some of the stones, unless they're finished perfectly, it will look like mud. You won't be able to see the facets and the beauty of the stone. Italy can be a little bit more expensive, but the good news is that you get perfect finish, perfect quality control, and allows a lot of things to be in the marketplace that wouldn't allow to be there unless the quality and the machinery were in place like it is in Italy.
The materials we chose are fairly cost-effective compared to some of the more expensive samples she had with her.
On the other end of the spectrum, a lot of what controls the price, like we were saying, is supply and demand. For instance, in these particular stones, very, very, very high demand, very little supply. Difficult to quarry, so that makes them more expensive.
What is this one right here? I mean, that is, where's that come from?
Yeah, this comes from Russia, from a very cold part up in Siberia. And it has a very beautiful, beautiful blue color to it that's created by a magnesium. And this only can be quarried in the summer months, and then we have to wait for the river to freeze by the quarry, and then oxen bring the block down on the frozen river. So you can see that when there's high demand, you can only bring so many block down, and that's why it's expensive.
Yeah, the Axe probably cut down the supply a little bit on that one.
Indeed they do.
Well,
Indeed
then you
they
have
do.
some stuff that's just exquisite, like this onyx. I mean,
Yeah.
that's got to be more expensive.
Yeah, and onyx is very, very unique. Every piece of onyx is just like finding a beautiful diamond, a beautiful stone. Every piece is different.
Here, coil it up and color it.
Well, the guys are just about wrapped up for today. Now they've measured for all the backsplashes, so they'll head back, cut those up, and then come over and finish those. They're also going to cut some tile for us out of the granite, an application we've never done before. I think that's going to look pretty.
And you wanted those to be 4.5 by 10, correct?
I think